Hello, this is Jason Hartsfield, Career Academy Associate with the Starkloff Disability Institute, and today we're going to be talking about networking resumes. The networking resume is the resume you hand out during job fairs or business gatherings or during informational interviews. They are different from job application resumes because job application resumes are written using keywords and details taken from the specific description of a job you're applying for. They are designed to stand out on their own. Networking resumes, on the other hand, are like elaborate business cards. They summarize your overall skills and experiences, supplement your verbal introduction, and give others a way of introducing you later. If someone asks us, "What do I put on my resume?" our usual response is, "Whatever you want, so long as it's relevant to the job." This is a bit harder, though, when you don't have a specific job you're applying for. The first thing to know is that your networking resume will probably be skimmed in less than 30 seconds. This means you want your resume to be short and easy to read. Keep it 1 to 2 pages. Divide your resume into clear sections using bold or underlined section headers so people can quickly find what they're looking for. Try to avoid paragraphs. Instead, use bulleted lists to draw the eye. Sentences shouldn't be more than 2 lines. Overall, your font size should be between 10 and 12 points. These are for standard fonts. Cursive fonts are really inappropriate for a resume. Incidentally, so are page borders and tables. Calibri, Arial, or Times New Roman are examples of acceptable resume fonts. Some people try to get more onto their resume by shrinking the page margin size, but your margins really shouldn't be any smaller than a ½ inch. It's okay if your resume needs a second page. However you format your resume, stay consistent. Any formatting changes, like changes in indent spacing or fonts, will most likely be seen as mistakes. Which reminds me, please make sure you have someone else proofread your resume for you. Spell check won't catch everything, and a lot of resumes are thrown in the trash because of a single spelling mistake. Finally, make sure to include your full name, phone number, and email address. Recruiters will ignore a resume without an email. Wherever you can, quantify your accomplishments and job duties. What do I mean by that? Let's compare these two sentences. I answered phone calls at the front desk, and I responded to 50 to 70 phone calls per shift from 3 separate phone lines. The first sentence doesn't really tell us anything about what this job duty entailed. The second sentence does because it uses numbers to provide more detail and emphasize how hard the task was. Even if you don't know the exact number, it's okay to approximate. Try not to go overboard though. You don't want to set yourself up to be caught in a lie. Another way to help your resume stand out is to use action verbs. Action verbs are exactly what they sound like. They are verbs that emphasize your action. They're more powerful and provide greater detail than other verbs. It's hard to explain, but let's compare these two sentences. I participated in a team, or I coordinated with a team. The word coordinated is a stronger action verb because coordinating with others requires initiative on your part. It emphasizes your effort. Participate could mean anything. All a participant has to do is show up, but a coordinator has to act. Here are just a few examples of some other common action verbs. Administered, built, created, communicated, designed, developed, enhanced, improved, implemented, led, managed, organized, oversaw, resolved, taught, updated, and volunteered. We at Starkloff are huge fans of what we call the 1/3 rule. This rule says the top third of page 1 is the most important part of your resume. Here is where you really sell yourself. How do you do that? The best way is to use a powerful opening statement. Sometimes you'll see these called a professional summary, a summary of qualifications, or an objective statement. This is a 1 to 2 sentence introduction at the top of your resume that answers the questions, who are you, and what do you bring to the table? Start your first sentence with a job title that best describes your skills. Examples include sales rep, accountant, mechanical engineer, and so on. By identifying yourself this way, you can quickly convey exactly what your skill set is. Highlight a particular expertise you have that you feel is the most relevant to the type of job you're applying for. Include how long you've been practicing your particular skill and any licenses or certifications you've earned. Let's take a moment to talk in more detail about the objective statement. The objective statement also answers the question, what is your goal? If you have 10 years of experience in a particular field and you're looking for a higher paying job, you don't need to mention your goal because it's understood that your goal is to advance your career. However, if you're switching careers or are a recent grad, it's a good idea to identify why you want the job you're looking for. And of course, remember to be specific. Are you hoping to develop a new skill or talent? Use an existing skill or talent in a new way? Or are you exploring other career or industry options? Let's go over some examples of opening statements. The first statement reads, outside sales rep with 6 years of experience meeting the needs of customers from diverse backgrounds. Before we've even started reading his resume, we can already make assumptions about him. First, his chosen job title tells us he has skills related to sales, but we also learn that he is particularly proud of his experience in diversity. This implies he is very flexible and knowledgeable about the needs of different types of consumers, and expertise he recognizes is important to his field. The next opener is experienced chef eager to explore the restaurant industry. This is an example of an objective statement by someone who wants to try a new industry. Maybe he's worked in hotels and now he's eager to work in restaurants. We'll have to read the rest of his resume to find out. Next, we have registered nurse with 5 years of practice caring for patients in emergency room settings, and mechanical engineering expert with 10+ years of experience designing aviation components. These two are more examples of experienced people seeking higher paying positions in their field. Again, notice how they highlight a specific expertise that they know is relevant to the type of job they are looking for. Finally, newly licensed teacher looking to utilize new skills for the benefit of grade school children. This is an example of an objective statement by a recent college grad who just got his license. He accounts for his lack of experience by highlighting how eager he is to start developing his skills while working with young kids. Another way to effectively use the top 1/3 of your resume is by pairing your opening statement with 5 to 8 bullet points highlighting your major career accomplishments. These should be focused only on those skills and accomplishments that are relevant to the job you're seeking. Include experience with relevant hard skills. For example, you may identify your typing rate, or maybe there's a computer program language you're particularly experienced with. Make sure to include how many years you have of experience with this skill. You can also highlight your hard skills through any licenses or certifications you've earned. Also include accomplishments such as any awards or recognitions you've received, projects, courses, or class assignments you've completed, and anything you've written that has been published. These are only a few examples though. The sky's the limit so long as you stay both relevant and specific. Here is an example at the top of a resume for a recent graduate of an IT school. He titles this section of his resume his professional summary, and his opening statement reads, recent computer technology graduate eager to begin a career in software design. He answers who he is, what he wants, and what he can bring, which in this case is a recent degree in computer technology. Next, we get a list of his accomplishments. We see he has 8 years of experience using JavaScript, and he is proficient in Python and C++. We also learn that he has designed data analytical software to evaluate marketing strategies for an undergraduate level business programming class in 2016, and has coordinated with team members to write pathfinding software for a submission to the Missouri Robotics Competition in 2012. Finally, we see that he won an honors fellowship in 2013 for computer technology. Clearly, he's an impressive young man, even if he doesn't have any real work experience yet. Here's an opening statement for an experienced business analyst. She starts by introducing herself as a certified business analyst with over 10 years of experience, including 6 years leading large teams on major projects. Next, we learn she has 8 years of experience utilizing computer programming tools including C++ and Java, has provided analysis and training in fields including human resources, accounting, marketing, billing, sales, and information technology, has demonstrable knowledge of business systems design, has a certification as a certified manager from the Institute of Management Certifications from 2009, and is certified as a corporate trainer from the Management and Strategy Institute, which she earned in 2005. Knowing where to put education on your resume is tricky. You do want to mention your education, but for older workers you could end up dating yourself. A good rule of thumb for education is, the more relevant it is, the closer it goes to the top. If you graduated less than 5 years ago, put your degree before your work history, and include the completion year. You don't need the month. If you graduated more than 5 years ago, put your degree after your work history and don't include the year. This rule is flexible, but if you've been out of school for 10 or more years, it's not really a good idea to list your graduation year. They can ask for that if they want it. Degrees that aren't really related to the career you're after also go below the work history. For example, if your bachelor's degree is in biochemistry but you're looking for a job in HR, your relevant work experience is going to be far more important than your degree. Regardless of where your education section ends up, it's generally assumed that your education is listed in reverse chronological order. This means you'll list your most recent degree first. If you have some college experience but you never graduated, don't put it under your education section. Instead, list any relevant coursework or projects in your accomplishments section. But if you're a current student and you plan on graduating, you can list your degree along with your expected completion date. Finally, you only need to list your high school degree or GED date if you earned it within the last 5 years and you don't have a college degree yet. Like education, work history is tricky. Your work history isn't restricted to just those jobs you were paid to do. Volunteering, internships, externships, practicums, and so on all count as part of your work history. Focus on your last 5 jobs or on the last 10 years of your work history. But what about the people who have more than 10 years of experience with one company? One option is to give the company its own section where you describe the different job titles you had while you were there. Regardless of how you divide your work history, make sure your jobs are listed in reverse chronological order with the most recent job at the top. When applying for most jobs, you only need to enlist your employment dates in years. But if applying for government jobs, you need to list months and years. Don't mention any jobs that you left within 6 months, unless it was a contract job designed to be short-term. For each entry, make sure to include the job title and company, an optional 1 to 2 line summary of your job duties, and a few bullet points highlighting your specific accomplishments in the job, much like the one you did for your career accomplishments section earlier. Remember to quantify. We say optional for the summary of job duties because sometimes it's pretty obvious what your job duties were based on your job title. If you were a customer service representative, for example, it's pretty accurate to assume you spent most of your day serving customers. Finally, some people list work locations, but you really don't have to. Here we see one example of a way to describe a job on your resume. The first line is the job title, Customer Teleservice Associate. The next line provides the name of the company, Teller Group LLC, and the dates 2015 to 2017. This job seeker has chosen not to provide a summary of job duties, probably because his job title strongly implies he worked in a call center. His first accomplishment reads, responded to 70 to 100 customer inquiries per day on 8 separate phone lines and via live chat. His other 2 accomplishments are that he resolved customer concerns on average below target call resolution times set by the department, and that he consistently received high marks for courteousness, knowledgeability, and positivity from customer satisfaction surveys. Let's look at another example. This time we see that this person has opted to provide a 1 to 2 line job duties summary. This is probably because the job title, Administrator, is vague and needs some clarification. The summary, which is for a job with the Cure Foundation from 2010 to present, reads, managed the day-to-day organization of the office, performed accounting duties, and assisted in coordinating special events. Her bulleted list of accomplishments are that she entered all data pertaining to accounts payable and receivable, and prepared monthly financial reports for the board of directors, coordinated all aspects of monthly events including invitations, correspondence, and working with venues and caterers, assisted in the preparation of annual tax returns and management of healthcare plans, office insurance, and payroll, and that she kept the public informed about medical breakthroughs and events through Facebook and Twitter. We briefly mentioned contract jobs earlier. So how do you list staffing agency or other short-term contract jobs on your resume? There's really only one rule to follow. List the staffing agency as the actual employer. Most staffing agencies do all the interviewing, hiring, documentation, and termination themselves, then contract you out to other businesses when they have staffing needs. If you don't list the staffing agency, you're claiming you were hired directly by the company. This rule doesn't apply if you were contracted directly with the company. For example, most universities offer temp jobs to their students. In this case, you can just list the university as your employer and indicate somewhere in the job description that you are a temp. After you list the staffing agency, list the name of the company you were contracted out to and the job title you held. For each job title, you might include a few bullet points about your job duties or your accomplishments. Here's an example of a way to describe work history with a staffing agency. The first line reads, Johnson Company Staffing, 2004 to 2008. The next line gives the job title, Data Entry Associate, the company he was contracted to, Martin Co., and the contract year, 2008. After that, we're given a bulleted job duty which reads, Perform data entry for 40 to 50 accounts per 4-hour shift. We're then given a second job title, Front Desk Receptionist for Bright Smile Dental Group, and the contract years 2006 to 2007. After that, we're given 2 bullet points. The first reads, Checked patients into the doctor's office in a timely manner, and the second reads, Verified patient insurance information. Before we conclude, there's one more question that I know a lot of you are asking. Do I have to list my work history in reverse chronological order if my last job wasn't relevant to what I'm looking for? The simple answer is yes. At Starkloff, we spend a lot of time working one-on-one with recruiters from some of the region's biggest employers, and they consistently tell us that they need to see a chronological work history, including your employment dates. Not having those dates is seen as a red flag because it might mean you're a job hopper who doesn't stay at one job for more than a year. But does that mean that everything in your work history section needs to have all the details we've discussed? No. While the job does need to be listed in the right place, it doesn't need to be prominent. It could be as simple as a 1 or 2 line summary of duties acknowledging that you were working, but that this job wasn't very relevant to your career. That being said, don't underestimate the power of transferable skills. You may not realize it, but even seemingly unimportant jobs, like stocking shelves for a grocery store, still involve skills that can be relevant to your career. Recruiters understand that sometimes we have to take jobs just to make ends meet, but that doesn't mean the skills we learn at those jobs aren't important. Some of you are probably also wondering about employment gaps. Gaps of 6 months or less aren't a big deal. That's about the average time it takes someone to find a job. And if your gap fell between 2008 and 2010, you get even more leeway because everybody was struggling to find work back then. But if you have a significant gap of more than a few years, you might consider explaining it on your resume through a brief 1-line statement. Examples include full-time mom, 2005 to 2015, or personal break for health reasons, 2003 to 2006. Of course, this isn't something you have to do, but it might alleviate some concerns they have about your gap. A word of warning though, if you explain your gap by saying you are looking for work, that's a bad idea. It suggests you're either lazy or just plain unemployable. Try to find a better reason, or if you can't, just leave that part out. Let's summarize what we've learned today. First, we learned that the networking resume, unlike the job application resume, is a marketing document much like an elaborate business card. Its purpose is to supplement your verbal introduction, introduce your professional experience, and give others a tool they can use to talk about you later. Second, we discussed some techniques to help you write a memorable resume. Follow the 1/3 rule. Open with a powerful introductory statement that answers the questions, who are you, what can you bring to the table, and at least for some, what your goals are. Follow it up with a bulleted list of your major career accomplishments. Third, we learned that we could use numbers to turn everyday tasks into accomplishments, and we can use action verbs to add power to our descriptions and emphasize our action. Finally, we learned the importance of following the basic resume formatting rules to make sure our resumes are easy to read. Divide your resume into sections so readers can quickly find what they're looking for, and make sure to have a friend check your resume for spelling and grammar mistakes. That's it for our presentation on how to write a networking resume. One of the main things we do here at Starkloff is work one-on-one with our candidates to help them develop a whole catalog of resumes they can use at different occasions. If you'd like to learn more about this and other services the Career Academy offers, you can contact us at info@starkloff.org. That's info@starkloff.org. You can also call us at 314-588-7090. Thanks for watching and good luck.